Hey guys, welcome to the Dry Bones Recovery series. This is actually only the second video in that series, but I've been real excited about going into this arena of recovery because I am a recovering addict and I'm also a minister of the gospel. And so today's video is choosing your own conception of God. And so coming from say somebody that's, a minister of the gospel, that's really a tough subject for us, because in my faith circle, that's like an absolute no. It's unbiblical. Even a lot of the Old Testament is about, not worshiping other gods. And so, but I think there's a practical side to this that we can make it an approach that it doesn't have to be that serious. And well, let me back up a little bit, and I'll share my experience with you, because the 12 steps actually led me were the path that I took that led me to Christ. And so I just feel like we got a creator that has a lot more wisdom than we do, and a lot more patience. And and I hate to really put it like this, but in a nutshell, sometimes in the beginning of recovery, it's not really about a heaven or hell issue. It's really just about getting clean. And once a person can get clean and they can develop a prayer life and get to talking to a savior, or get to talking to the creator, then they can learn who the savior is. I mean, you're talking about, when it comes to theology, when it comes to faith, I mean, there's a lot of big pills to swallow. There's a lot of things to have to wrap your mind around. And when you don't know whether or not you can stay clean today, those are things that you can't really wrap your mind around, or even just think about at the moment. You just want to live different. You're tired of getting your butt kicked by drug addiction. So, and the thing is the God words is that one word that it is in recovery. It's a part of it. There's a process of being able to apply your faith, and I think that it's very much okay to be able to reach out with whatever amount of faith that you can muster up to whatever you could put your mind to who God is. And I think that is perfectly fine. I don't think there's nothing in the world wrong with that. And I know that that's coming from somebody that's a preacher. That's kind of like almost a no-no. You don't agree with that, but not all preachers are recovering addicts. So, and not all preachers work the 12 steps and apply them in their daily life. And if you would have asked me about choosing a God of your own conception just a few months, or just a few years, just a year or two ago, my answer would be different than it is now. Until, it wasn't until recently that God reminded me that it was the 12 steps that he brought to me first, before he ever brought the Bible to me. And if it wasn't for the 12 steps, I wouldn't understand the Bible or its principles the way that I do today. So, if you're a Christian, here's the kicker. And I think this is where Christians get caught up in the whole choosing God as your own conception, and find trouble, or find it hard to stay in the recovery realm, is the whole, their own conscience not allowing somebody else to choose whatever God they want to choose, or their own conception of God. And as a Christian, I believe that if you're a Christian in recovery and you're sponsoring people, I think you can give people that freedom. There's a lot to God the Father that we don't understand. Do I believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life? Do I think that no man comes to the Father except through Jesus? Yeah, I believe all those things. Absolutely. But I don't think it's my obligation, duty, or job to manipulate somebody else's path to the Father or to Jesus. I can only share my heart. I can only share my knowledge and try to translate my relationship with Jesus the best I can, and hopefully that gives somebody else insight to where they could be able to apply their faith in the same arena as I do, as far as Christianity goes. And this is a tough subject. It really is, but the thing we have to remember is that when somebody is coming off the streets, they're new in recovery, and they don't know which way to turn, they've just had their butt kicked by addiction, they're not thinking about who God is. You know what I mean? They just want to get clean. And so then when they get in the program and they get sponsors and they start talking about doing the steps seriously, and they've been worked some steps, and then all of a sudden the subject of God comes up. And step 1 and 2 basically from the beginning, you got to I'm not God and He is. My life's unmanageable. I got to let God restore me back to sanity. And so, right at the beginning, God is right there. But sometimes people ain't ready. Addicts are not ready to wrap their mind around any kind of religion or theology. And I know that, a lot of people in Christian and faith circles are trying, to stay away from the religious spirit and religion and all that. But at the end of the day, we are a religion, and we if you call yourself a Christian, that at some level or another you are applying theology to your life. And so those things, man, can be real hard for somebody to try to understand. And I think we can do more harm than good if we try to push those things down somebody's throat before they're ready. And so I think it's perfectly fine to give people that room and that space to develop their own faith in a God of their own understanding. Even if that God of their own understanding isn't Jesus at first. The thing is, and I know Christians will argue with me on this, but this is my own personal experience. That the first time I ever worked the 12 steps, it's a process that leads to an experience. The conclusion is a spiritual awakening or a spiritual experience, which changes your life. And I honestly worked the 12 steps and had that experience and developed a relationship with God. I'm talking about driving down the road and just have the overwhelming feeling of His presence and just start weeping and crying and just thanking Him for everything that He done in my life. And at that point, I was not a Christian. He was answering my prayers. So, you can get into that debate that, God, God doesn't answer the prayers of an unbeliever. Well, what if the thing is when you have a baby, they don't even know how to say mama or daddy. You know what I mean? But does that make them any less your child? Does that make them any less knowing that you're their parent? Before they even know your name, before they could even say your name or know your name, they still know that you are their parent. And I think the same thing happens in the kingdom. Before we can even say Jesus or know Jesus or anything like that, I think he's still our parent. He's still our father. And I think he's absolutely okay with there being a process to becoming a believer. Because here's the thing. I firmly believe, this is just me, this is my own opinion. I firmly believe that salvation is a process or is progressive, so that, you know, your understanding of grace and salvation and grows as you grow. And you know, yes, it's a finished work on Calvary, so that it's available, it's there. But I'm not finished. I'm not finished in this life yet. My understanding of God the Father, Jesus Christ, all those things are not finished. Every day that I walk this thing out, I learn more and more and more. And so I'm just, my whole thing is this really just coming from, you know, these are recovery videos, but if anybody knows me, you know that most of my stuff comes from a Christian perspective. So, is it okay to allow an addict to choose his own conception of God? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because when somebody's just trying to get clean, and you know that it's faith in a relationship with God, and somebody's stepping out of the way to let God do something for them in their life, it doesn't matter what name we tag to it in the beginning. They just got to be able to grab a hold to something. They got to be able to reach out with their faith and just grab anything that will guide them in the right direction, because they have been walking in the wrong direction, and their faith has been grabbing a hold of other things from another kingdom. And so it's just like if you walk through the woods and get a bunch of cockerbarrels on your pant legs. You don't just pick one off and they're gone. It's a process. You got to pick it till you get them all off. And the same thing goes with, getting these monkeys off our back. And it's just a process. And, I know I kind of danced around a little bit in this video, but really the number one point of this video is that Christians that's in the realm of recovery, don't fret so much on the fact that somebody, with being okay with saying that somebody can choose their own conception of God. Because in recovery, our number one aim is to help that brother or that sister get clean. And it ain't our responsibility who they choose to believe in. And the thing is nobody forced me to believe. If somebody would have tried to force me to believe in Jesus, it would have never worked. And so, because I've been given that freedom, I think we got a God. Because at the end of the day, we know if we're Christians, if we're blood bought, born again, we're believers, we're chasing after Jesus, I promise you it's because he chased you down. It's because he wooed you. It's because he called you out of the darkness, not because somebody else convinced you. So don't feel like you have to be the person to convince somebody that Jesus is real. You just be the sower. You sow into that brother, you sow into that sister, and you keep sowing and sowing and sowing until God calls them, woos them, and they come to terms with who their Savior is. So either way, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you don't like it, hit the thumbs down button. I don't care. If you disagree, if you agree, leave some comments in the comment section. And as always, man, I love you. I'm not here to try to harm nobody. I'm just here to try to help people understand, life is tough, and life is even tougher for addicts, man, especially when they're trying to get clean. And I think sometimes, people from certain religious circles, man, really throw a lot of things at people that pushes them away more than it helps them. And so I'm just trying to help people get off of drugs, man. I'm trying to help them walk this thing out called faith. I pray that everybody that I sow into becomes a believer and chases after Jesus the same way that I do. I love to set the fox's tails on fire. I want to set the whole world on fire. But sometimes it just starts with small steps. So either way, I love you. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you got any questions, if you got any ideas of what you would like, the next video to be in this Dry Bones recovery series, I think my next one, I want to hit on some sponsorship, mentorship, and then maybe some stuff on meetings, and then we'll delve into the 12 steps. So anyway, love you. God bless you. Have a blessed day.